So I was wondering, just to kick us off, if you could just tell us a bit about Centrestage and how you got started, and a bit about you. I suppose.
I was a teacher, a music teacher, the scariest type of all subjects. I was a teacher for 20 years and absolutely loved it. And if you ask me now what I am, I would still say I'm a teacher. I just don't teach in schools. And I think that's one of the things that will come out of this whole COVID period is, do we need to learn in school all the time? So I was a teacher in schools for 20 years, had the most wonderful time doing it, had a huge amount of young folks who did extracurricular and a huge amount of folks who did curricular. Over the years, very, very fortunate that a young teacher came along as a student and joined the school where I was, which was Grange Academy in Kilmarnock, which I genuinely do still think was the best school that ever there was. He came along as a student, a most unorthodox teacher who was incredibly interested in the technology and the space and how you could create the magic of the place that really complemented what I was able to do with the people in the music. And Paul eventually joined the department. We had the most incredible time there, putting on incredible productions. We used to pack loads and loads of kids into classrooms. It was highly illegal, huge numbers, and they would come in at lunchtime and we would cram in and they would sing, they would have their lunch, and it was just the most wonderful community, always focused on putting on these productions. But whilst we were rehearsing, you would have the kids outside the window. We looked on to where the smokers would congregate beside the playing fields. So the music classroom, there was that bit, and you would have the usual banter of the kids outside the window, and just as you would expect. And we always had a great relationship with these Waynes anyhow. But sometimes those kids, or a few of them, would make their way round and would join the choir. They would come in and just join the choir, and that was a really, it was a great thing to happen. We knew it was really important that they did. Sometimes they would come and sing, sometimes they would join the crew, the tech crew that Paul was heading up, and they were fantastic there. And we always knew that was good, but it was only when we started Centrestage that the most important thing of all in that exercise was not the fact that those kids came along and joined the choir, it was the fact that the kids in the choir let those kids in. And it's that whole piece of the role of community in allowing the outsider to be included. If we don't allow people to be included, why should they ever progress, and will they ever get the opportunity to progress if we don't see their value, see their worth, and reach out and invite them in? So it was only when we really started Centrestage that we really learnt how vital that was. So cutting down a long story boring, we realised that the extracurricular aspect of what we were doing was actually the thing that really drove us, and we saw the real value. They get to 7. Music, any age, any background, and that seemed like a great idea because you're in Kilmarnock, and why would you not want to build a theatre in Kilmarnock where anybody could come? That's a great idea. Turns out it's a really stupid idea if you're going to a bank manager and pitching it as a concept. The bank managers did not think it was a good idea, and back in 2006 or 2005 when we started the process, we started as a private limited company. We had no concept to the third sector. We had no concept how to run a business. To be honest, if you ask a lot of folk now, most folk would say I still don't have any idea how to run a business. That's why Paul's the CEO and not me. But we didn't know. So you went pitching to the bank managers. Eventually we got the £250,000 loans. You had to remortgage the house. You had to sell pretty much everything you owned. But in a business context, why should you expect someone else to invest in it if you don't have skin in the game? So whilst it maybe seemed foolhardy and reckless, we needed the place. We could have done it in a community centre or a church hall, but it was really important to build that place where people could come. So it's all about getting the balance right between place and people. So now Centrestage is in lots of different places, but it's always communities built around the arts, and anyone is welcome to come along. But we have lots of different labels in Centrestage, but the label doesn't put a label on you, if you know what it means. So if you're coming to Gate Laldy, that's your hook in. And that means that you or a loved one is affected by dementia. If you're coming to Connect, school maybe isn't for you. Aspire, maybe you're a family member has Down syndrome. You're just part of Centrestage. And you're maybe just coming to a choir, or you're maybe just coming to sit and have a coffee, or you're maybe just coming to sit. It's just a place to be, and everything that happens after that is your choice. So that's kind of what Centrestage is. And from there, it developed into other things in other places, because maybe about 5 years into it, maybe about 2010, we started doing outreach. And we went to care homes, we went to community centres, and most importantly for me, we went to the local prison, we went to HMP Kilmarnock.
Okay.
For no other reason than I have always loved getting people to sing who say they don't want to sing. If you give me 5 minutes for you with a piano, I would be finding out your show tune. I would want you to.
It wouldn't take much, Fiona.
Well, do you know, and I think we need to get that proper coffee bell, because I'll find that out.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's, as the team was growing, and as in a business, you know, you're always having to let your team grow, even letting them do the things you love the most, and they get better at it and you get dead jealous, but you have to let them do it to allow the team to grow and the organisation to develop. So it was time for me to get my piano under my arm and go out to other places. So whether it was the care home or the community centre, that was really important. But the prison was the most important of all. And it was one of the 2 big light bulb moments for me over the past years. And it was when I went into my first prison classroom, which had 10 very bemused men who didn't know why they were there, but they'd come along to something that was called Centrestage. And they came into this room when I was standing with a piano, and there was a group of men in there who were children that I had taught as wee boys. And they had been excluded from school before they hit second year. And I didn't know that that was what happens when you exclude children, and that's what happens when you exclude teenagers. And over the years, and I've worked with hundreds of men in there, over 80% of them were looked after or excluded, or both. And that's not a blame game, it's just a fact. Because I was a music teacher and I didn't get told. And it's to my shame now, because I liked those kids and they liked me, and they were wee buggers. They really, really were wee buggers. But I like wee buggers, and we always do like wee buggers, because you get an energy. These are the entrepreneurs. Why are we not teaching business to these kids? Because they've got that edge. They're doing it illegally. Show them how to do it legally, and we've all want to watch. They're your social entrepreneurs. They just don't know it yet. Those men taught me what I failed in as a teacher, and I was a really, really good teacher. I know that. I don't need anybody to tell me I'm a good teacher. But I failed by not advocating for children who actually liked my subject, but they didn't get the choice to stay in something that they were good at or that they liked. Because I could have had the music all day long, but the big system said you don't fit the system, so you have to get out. And if you think with a service mindset, we have businesses, regardless whether we're a charity or a social enterprise, it's still a business, and the customer is king, and we want our customers to stay with us. In the context of education, that child is the customer. So why does the service not change to allow the customer to benefit from it? And I didn't know any of that. And once you know it, you can't unknow it. So that led us to our Catalyst project, which eventually was about meeting men at the gate, taking them to another building, became Catalyst, with the art and the music and the writing and the help and the support and the food, that companionship. Choice, it's not compulsory. If you want to come, you can. It's not about referral. Just come along and be part of it, and come to the shows as well. Come and be part of Centrestage, because you're still part of the community. You have been an ex-offender. You are an ex-offender. Society will tell you that. You've been an offender. You're not an offender now. Who are you? And that is the question. You're not a non-academic. We define folk by the negative. You're an ex-addict, so I can still judge you. I'm an ex-teacher, still judge me. A non-academic. All of these things are such negative labels, and they focus on the deficit, as opposed to saying to people, who do you want to be? Who could you be? And the really important one, can I help you be that? Because I've had people take a punt on me year in, year out, and they have helped me. We should be doing the same for the folk that don't get that help, and that means really assertively going right to where they are and saying, I'm here with you. Do you want to come to my house now? You have welcomed me into your house. Thank you. Do you want to come to mine? And in my house, I've got other people you'll meet, and I've got other things you can try. I've only got what I'm good at. So music's my thing. But if it was, you know, art, or if it was sport, I'll find you somebody else that can give you that feeling that I get every day when I meet somebody that I can talk to music about, you know.
And I bet I can feel the passion and the energy, Fiona, I can imagine. But it does take a lot of passion and energy and it takes a real sense of emotional intelligence, I think, to be able to identify actually who someone is as a person and why they're getting involved in music and all sort of things. With it, I think it's really interesting because your model and a few others that I've been looking at, so Mrs. Looking at Street Soccer Scotland,
Yeah.
very much are being looked at and are in the spotlight at the moment because there's one thing I think that joins them together. They take people for who they are, and it's not about numbers, it's not about filling in forms, it's not about you going through a process. There are systemic problems with things like the care system, things like the education system, which are largely driven by costs sometimes and attainment. And I wonder what you say about your model. I'm sure you can say a lot about it, where it's focusing on basically trying to support people attain what they want to attain, but do that in such a way that you're not putting a kind of blanket program or blanket response for them.
I think that we get to work and talk an awful lot to Sylvie with Miss
Yeah.
and with David at Street Soccer and other organisations, and they're utterly inspirational. And I think the thread that runs through all of them is that nobody really knows what they are. The name kind of gives you a wee hint, but you really don't know what they're doing, you know. So there's a curiosity, and there's also a dignity in that, and there's also something that unifies us all because we're all going into kind of unknown. So Centrestage, something's kind of arty going on there. We think maybe street soccer, there's going to be some kind of football thing, but nobody really knows. So you could be there because you love to sing, or you could be there because you really need some help and you're desperate for food, but nobody needs to know. And it actually doesn't need to be us that provide that service. So for us, it's about, for me, there's steps that lead to attainment, regardless what your age are. And it's about, first, you've got to really like people. You've actually got to love folk. You don't need to like how they behave. You don't, it's like family. And a lot of, I'm sure, I mean, David and Sylvia will say the same. A lot of the folk that come along, regardless of their background, will say, it feels like family when I come here. Now, that doesn't mean you get on all the time, and it means you can fight like cat and dog, but it does mean you've got each other's back and you're going to look after each other. And if it's family, you're coming into a space that you're safe in, and you feel happy in, and you're included in it. And if you're lucky enough, you're going to be presented with choices that allow you to build your strengths and unlock your talents and achieve things. And once you get to that point, you can actually start to measure attainment. But you can't do that until you've been through all of those steps. So if we are going to an unhappy child who is starving and living in chaos and seeing things that no child should ever see, and I didn't know any of this when I was a teacher. Only when I came out did I learn this, to my shame. And I mean, my daughter is now training to be a primary teacher, and I am delighted to hear that they've been told this now in first year. This is a real thing. Understand this. You've got to understand that this is going on first so that you can understand and be kind to these kids first. We have to do that first. So it has to be about loving people, really genuinely being curious about folk and wanting to spend time with them and wanting to learn from them, because I have learned more from the folk we've been lucky enough to serve and work with than they've ever had from me. This has been the biggest learning thing, and as a teacher, every teacher should be learning all the time. And I kind of stopped learning. I was a good teacher, but I knew how to do it. And that, and that's fine. That's fine if you're happy doing that. And I keep saying that to folk. You don't need to do the daft thing and jump out and do the crazy stuff that we do. But see, if you do want to do it, don't settle. You only get one shot at life, and I think that's the thing with the theatre. It's live, and this is not a rehearsal. This is the gig you're going to get. So please don't sit there waiting to die. You know, get out there.
Absolutely.
And you're going to make mistakes. but every mistake gets you closer to where you're wanting to be, and it's only a mistake if you don't learn. And as I said, my mistake was that exclusion piece.
The exclusion. And you've definitely, I mean, you've grabbed it with both hands, haven't you? You mortgaged your house in order to set up this organisation twice. So twice you've mortgaged your house.
A very patient husband.
Well, I mean, that, and you must think, you know, you've got one shot at life, and like we were saying before, if you're going to bomb like a Spitfire. But I guess there's two things for me. So you didn't know about social enterprise. You set up as a limited company. You didn't get funding. You remortgaged your house twice, which for me, I think it gives you the skin in the game, as you said before. It gives you that mindset about running it like a business for social purpose, but also you don't have the kind of drivers of a funder saying to you, we want you to get 20 people into jobs. We want you to get, so that piece round about you saying you, Sylvie, David, they don't quite know what it is. You can't be contained, it can't be packaged into a funding application necessarily, or that's not how you started up. What can you say about that drive, which is about your own purpose versus legal structure versus funding versus whatever else?
Everything's transactional. You know, absolutely everything's transactional. It doesn't matter. There's always got to be some kind of payback. It doesn't matter what it is. So we made those choices at the beginning, and the consequence was you live with that level of risk for years and years and years. And the satisfaction 10 years in of paying those off, even though by that point it was, you're a charity and you were working for it, it didn't matter. You'd done that. You made that choice. So suck it up and go on with it. However, it doesn't. We've worked with really great funders over the years. There is a transaction with that as well. If you work with them, you have to give them what they want. But the best funders, and the funders that we work with now, are the learning funders, who you can actually say, I thought that would happen, and actually it's over there. And for us, we have to be able to go on that learning journey, because you're going to meet people you've never met before. You don't know what they're going to want to do. You're having to ask them, you're having to build that relationship, and then you're going on a journey where you're making assumptions based on your own experience and the experience of the people you're working with, but you've never worked with these people in these places. So you've got to go on that journey. So that the funders that we have been really fortunate to work with most recently over the course of the past 2 or 3 years have allowed us to go on that journey. And that's allowed us to find out truths that we didn't know. And I think the simplicity for me is things like the arts and sport. They should be an absolute human right from birth. These are the things that allow our most vulnerable folk to see beyond that label. We look at Maslow, and our most vulnerable folk are kept at the bottom until they're allowed by someone cleverer than them to say, and now you can progress. Whereas we are blessed to be in that lovely, safe, happy, aspirational, material need. We're like this all the time. We're fluid, and we're following how we feel at that time. But our most vulnerable folk are kept down, and they are not given sight of those amazing things that make us human. And for us, it's the arts, and that it doesn't matter what those arts are, those are the things that make us human. And we, by keeping those things away from our most vulnerable children, we are absolutely keeping a lid on them, and that just isn't fair. And one of the criticisms that sometimes has been levelled over the years, and it doesn't happen now because I think the world is changing and becoming, the blinkers are coming off, and we are seeing far more kindness and common sense applied to this. But you used to get, well, why are the bad kids getting this fun stuff? Why are these men getting that fun when they've been? And we talk about more fun, less fixing. You know, the most vulnerable, saddest people, they need more fun. They actually need to talk less about what the problems are and talk more about what positivity does and what hope can do. So more fun, less fixing. And that does not mean for a second that we are fools or that we're underestimating the scale of the challenges. The challenges are vast. But I want to feel that change is possible. We couldn't come through what we've come through over the past 15 years and think, oh, well, it was all for nothing. Absolutely not. And COVID is the ultimate expression of that. We have to know that this is the sign that we can do differently now. There is a reason for social entrepreneurship. There is a reason. I don't want there to be charities. I don't want there to be a need for us to be a charity. I find it abhorrent. I hate being a charity. Is that a silly thing to say when we need funding?
I would.
We know it is important. But where things have been, that we talk about recovery, you hear it all the time. I don't want to recover to go back to that. I want to reimagine, I want to redesign, I want to talk to other people who see that too, and I want to add our bit to the solution. We're just part of the solution. And so many groups and organisations across the different local authorities, across politics, it doesn't matter. We can all be part of the solution if we're all willing to park our own egos and say what we are good at. So more fun, less fixing.
Well, I subscribe to that, and especially thinking about COVID at the moment, it's one of the worries I think sometimes is when there's less money about, or that people become more, what's the word, less creative and think less, out, to use a term, outside of the box, and think that things like the arts or whatever else can be frivolous, and like you were saying, why are prisoners, why are these people getting the fun stuff? We've kind of seen that within schools, and sometimes where the music in particular has taken a cut, and it's a worry. It's a worry that going forward, if there's less money, that we don't value actually the arts. I was lucky enough to go to art school, and I was exactly that sort of kid that lunchtime at school, that was my place. That was what I did, and that's kind of I was good at English. I was good at, So I was fortunate enough, and I came from a very kind of normal place in Wishaw, and the worry is that with less money about, that the arts and, as you said, sport are seen as being frivolous and not impactful. In terms of COVID, could you tell us about how that has impacted you, your organisation, and just, I can imagine you've had some challenges, Fiona, but I can imagine you've seen some opportunities.
So COVID, how long do you have?
We've got all.
Wow.
All day. We'll see
COVID was like the cherry on the top of a perfect storm of a year. Right. If we had written down everything, we do risk assess to Armageddon now. We never used to do that. Yeah. But even in our wildest Armageddons, we would never have seen this coming. And we'd had some really, really hard decisions to make this year, really, really difficult ones, but they were really working, and they were getting us to the place where we needed to be. And then COVID, it just appeared at such pace, and it was from that turn of the year, that sounds like a silly thing, that'll just be a flu of what we're talking about, to sitting ironically on Friday the 13th, hearing that this was really going to be a thing. And then on the Monday evening of the following week, sitting in our wee cafe, thinking, we're shut tomorrow. We have to close. Yeah. And so the impact was seismic. We're now sitting looking at a landscape that says that potentially 70% of Scottish charities will not last the year. We're looking at all manner of merging and closures. We're looking at our business model. I was reading a thing in, I can't remember where it was, but potentially 70% of theatres will never reopen. So that's not good when our whole trading model is built around bringing people together in large numbers, in confined spaces, in choirs. Choirs seem to be a really bad thing these days. Singing seems to be really bad times because it's a way of transferring the virus. So pretty much everything we do, our core income is built around class fees, tickets, to our performances we put on every year, people buying refreshments in the cafe. Everything that we do is a very, very bad thing forever at present. There is no line of sight for theatres coming back. There's no line of sight for large numbers of people coming together again. So there's absolutely no line of sight of anything good, really. And that was on Monday the 16th of March.
Yes. So there we are.
That was bad. That was bad. And we knew that our reserves, because our policy over the year, we were trying to build up our unrestricted reserves as a priority, but we were not even close to that point. We were still heavily dependent on specific grants, and we were having to build our own unrestricted. So we knew our reserves wouldn't allow us to cover even basic overheads more than a couple of months. So you're looking at either you're falling off the cliff, or you're having to do something drastic to survive, because we know that the need for places like Centrestage, organisations like ours, will be even greater as we emerge from this. We had to find a way to pivot the business model overnight. The fun pretty much had to disappear. We've got fun, food and folk are our three pillars. The fun had to disappear overnight, and we went into food and folk. Now, over the years, we developed our dignified food provision model back about 4 or 5 years ago. which was a model about taking huge amounts of surplus food, redesigning it into lovely, lovely meals, and getting it to folk who needed it. But you take what you need and you pay what you can. And it's very much, look how much we have all this lovely food. Please help us by taking it off our hands, and please put a value on it. So people who could pay, who were lonely, would pay, but they would never have paid had it been a handout. And people who had very little.
I'm with you in that,
do you know what I mean? So it's about connecting.
I used to run an organisation that did the same thing, so absolutely.
Yes. So important. So we were able to take all the learning from that over the years and reposition it at the heart of the organisation. We turned the theatre overnight into a food distribution hub, if you like. We were able to redefine a relationship with the East Ayrshire Council, which is it's so strong. The communication, the collaboration between the departments of the council, the Health and Social Care Partnership, the local grassroots community organisations, and the private sector, helping us out by providing chefs who were furloughed and resource like vans. We had Buzzworks, Brayhead Foods come in to help us see. You've got this lovely merging of private and social together for the benefit of all. The private sector learning about what we as a sector are doing, dignifying us. They're not allowing us to go under because they're helping us with their incredible skills and resource. We're able to gather as much of the food as we can, strategically get it out to where we know it's needed, but then by working with the local organisations that have the local knowledge, they're able then to get it out to the communities. And then by sharing the information, we can then find where wider support is needed, whether that's round about the wellbeing, whether it's this hideous new phrase that's emerging, the new poor, as we're starting to see redundancies kicking in. We're starting to see people who've been self-employed. I think that's the worst bit of all. You're seeing people who have been able to support themselves and their families for years, having to ask for food, having to navigate a welfare system that is complex in the extreme. If we don't understand it, how do folk that have worked all their days understand it? This is a horrible new time emerging. But we have been ramping up the wellbeing aspect of what we're doing, and as time is going on, the food part is starting to stabilise and go down. We're mindful that as furloughing starts to perhaps kick in and become more redundancies, emerges. But most importantly, it's now about the well-being and the positivity and the hope that our activities bring, the fun bit, and it's about gradually reintroducing the fun into folks' mindsets, that wee bit of hope. We are going to come together again. It's not going to be like it was before, but we have a chance to redesign our apps. We have the opportunity to redesign, define how we deliver the apps in communities and at Centrestage itself. So there is a real chance to redefine our actual core delivery model. The piece that we have is our space, the art space, in the context of health and well-being and recovery from COVID for communities, and that has to be a recovery. I just don't want to recover to go back to the world the way it was with the inequalities and the brokenness. We have to be able to redesign and rebuild a future that I think we would want our kids to inherit, as opposed to the mess that we were about to hand over to them. So we have a chance to make amends here, but we're going to have to be, as you said earlier, braver, work together in ways that we've never done before.
And with the organisations that you're speaking to and the organisations that you know, I mean, it's kind of like the elephant in the room in some ways, that we're speaking about COVID, we're speaking about things that might happen. Do you feel that there's a kind of sense of a reality kicking in that this is the case? For good reasons, we won't go back to the things that we don't want. There's a reality that we can change things for the better, but there's also the reality that there's going to be some tough decision making for organisations.
I didn't quite catch the end of what you said.
That cut out. Hi, I'm back. Apologies. This has been I knew there was been one day this week where my internet fails me, but it's just
I think I
thought,
give off an aura. If I go near a photocopier, it immediately breaks.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure it's not. I think yeah. Well, we're talking about challenges. I think
There we go.
there we are. There we are. Talk about the basically just I guess within the sectors. So we are a funder, and we're speaking to other funders, and we're thinking about how best to support people. And there is a reality. It's an elephant in the room. I think that we're going to have some tough times coming ahead. And I mean, what in your words within the sector, what money is always needed, but what other types of support would you say for organisations? What type of support are people looking for?
I think, in the context of the sector, I think if I look at our journey, I think if we put the weighting of actual business understanding at the front of third sector organisations, we are heart organisations, and that can be an incredible weakness. We've been very fortunate in our journey to be able to navigate round about some of they weren't the wrong decisions to make on a human level, but they were definitely the wrong decisions to make in a business level. Had we had far more business knowledge at the beginning to allow us to understand the clunky stuff in the same way that you would have where you're starting a normal business, I think the third sector, and I even hate the name third sector, I think it's terrible. I have a real thing about it.
Rachel's on the value sector.
It's just the importance of the label. The label just puts you in a particular box. So I think if charities, if social enterprises, social businesses could have more real teaching around about these things, I think that would be an incredible help, because I think there's some incredible new businesses coming out, some amazing ideas. I look at what's happening in young folks, in folks in their teens and 20s. I have never known such a socially aware age group. They know things that we never really cared about or noticed, and they really care. That's an energy that needs to be captured. And I think for them to become far more aware of social enterprise, I think it's really, really important they see that as a choice, and that again is the education system. Knowing that this is a thing and this may feed your soul in a way that working for someone else may never do, or if you're going to work for someone, go and work for a social enterprise or a social business. Yes, there's consequences, there's the transactional piece, you're making a choice to work in the third sector, but if you have that drive, there is no other thing that's going to help you and make you feel alive like that. So I think far more awareness of what our sector can do and can achieve. And if we get it right in this next phase, I think we can really make a huge difference to help oil the wheels of the big system. We all have our part to play. So it's more than money.
More than money, and you touched on some really kind of salient points for me, thinking about businesses getting involved in delivering your work and supporting you. And you mentioned social enterprise, mission-led businesses, social businesses. Maybe, do you think maybe the labels could come off? You said when you started out, you didn't know about the third sector. You ran a business that delivered social impact. It could be a vision for the world that actually every business that we have delivers some sort of social impact, and why do we need
Absolutely, and I think there's something more around about corporate social responsibility. There are so many amazing businesses out there who just don't know what's happening, and they desperately want to do something, but and they'll end up buying a football strip or something, and that's a lovely thing to do, but it's not going to make change. So perhaps it's that whole working together to match businesses with the social enterprises that are a good fit for them, and allowing them to learn more. And then it's up to them what they choose to do and how they could best help, because my goodness, we need the help. We need it more than ever. But there's always, I find it really, really hard asking for money. I find it, and we've got into a manner of hassle because you just do it even when there's no money. And that's a bad business decision. I've learned that, must stop that. But you need the money. And as a charity, I don't like asking for money. I like to earn my money. So the fact that we can get people to come and pay for their classes, that is fantastic for me, because there is a dignity to that for me. I have given a service and people have paid for it, and then that service has allowed us to do something else. So the more income we can generate, the happier I am. And also it's hard to fundraise for a charity like ours, because the last thing I want to do is put up pictures of starving kids and poor wee souls and broken men and women and old folk that are lonely. And these are all people we work with. But when people come to Centrestage, they feel human and they feel part of the community, and they feel there is a hope and there is a reason to either change or to make change or to progress or just to get out their bed in the morning. So I can't put up a poster saying, please give Centrestage money because there's poor souls out there that need help. We will not do that. So it looks superficially as if everything is absolutely brilliant. It's not. It's really, really hard to work this way. But you cannot sacrifice the dignity of the people who are working just to get the money. So having built relationships with funders who understand navigate to a better place, that's been a long process too. But you know, we're 14 years in and nobody thought we would make it to 4. So
so you've got here. And we spoke about before, obviously there was a large asset transfer, and that was Wheels Were in Motion. I think that's possibly the last time that we visited you. COVID comes along, that's a big thing. So
I know.
So tell us about that too.
Well, it's Kilmarnock Academy, which is the most beautiful site right in the heart of Kilmarnock, and a lovely piece of synergy. It's the school where I started teaching.
Oh,
went to school in Kilmarnock Academy. Over the years, we've developed lots of different sites across East Ayrshire with different groups of people all linking into the theatre. But the opportunity came up a few years ago when the Academy site was going to become surplus to the East Ayrshire estate. And it just seemed right to bring everything that we do onto that single site. From a business perspective, it makes so much more sense because obviously you're reducing all the running costs, everybody's going to be in the same place. But it also allowed us to bring everyone together to create that really connected community built around the arts, but also allowed us space to bring in what we're calling our neighbours, who are other organisations who share the same ethos and values, and they will also be on the site. So you're coming to us for the place, and we're the anchor organisation, and we'll do the arts and all the lovely things we do, but we're surrounded by housing and food and maternity services and crafts, and it doesn't matter. It's all, but you're just coming to the village.
Brilliant.
Obviously, with COVID, everything goes up in the air, because right in the heart of the village, we're building a theatre. Brilliant plan. Well done. You know, thumbs up. So over the course of COVID, whilst organising and pivoting the whole organisation, we've actually had to revisit the entire plan for delivery of the village, because the village is happening. It will happen. Yes, it's been knocked back a wee bit, but it will happen. But instead of focusing on the theatre as the main place to bring people together, we're going to focus on the beautiful old building, which is the lovely historical building, which is multi-layered, which allows us to redefine how we bring people together, and also to redefine how we do performances there. It's a beautiful space. We can think really creatively about that. But even more importantly is to look at the outside space. And how can we make that outside space a place that we bring people together? You look at we've got a large demographic of older folk with dementia, folk with support needs. They're all shielded just now. And when we all of a sudden say, out you go, everyone go, where do they go? Because there are so few places for them to go anyway. So we have to make sure that we have got the health and well-being of the entire community at the front of our thoughts of how this is going to operate, because this is a place for absolutely anybody to come. We always have been, but this is for us the ultimate manifestation of that. You will meet anyone if you come in, and if you don't want to meet anyone, don't come in. That's fine. It's all about choice. So I believe it's the largest asset transfer in Scotland.
I know,
which is really cool. But for me, it's just a school, and I really like schools. So it's regenerating this beautiful old place. and making it relevant, a place of learning, yes, for all ages, but just this place where anyone can come and be part of the village. And it goes back to that, it takes a village. We can only do the bit we can do. We need to surround ourselves with other organisations who are doing the things that we can't do, and hopefully it will make a difference. And there's a wonderful author, I don't know if you've heard of Margaret Wheatley. She writes some amazing leadership books, and she has a book called Who We Choose to Be, and it's about leadership in uncertain times. And I started reading it again. It's one of the books I go back to frequently. And she talks about islands of sanity. And we want this place to be an island of sanity. And maybe that's just cockamamie, but I really believe it's possible, because we've seen it happen time after time in places where it shouldn't happen. I've seen it happen in prison classrooms, I've seen it happen in community centres, in places where people say that won't happen, and it does. If we can just make little bits of change over and over again, and we all do those little bits, eventually that becomes an energy and a movement that just can't stop. So it is about, this community asset transfer for me is part of a far bigger thing. It was such a difficult process. The folk in the council who helped us with it were just magnificent. Our trustees were fantastic, particularly our chair, in helping us navigate the legalities, the structure of making this happen. So many mistakes were made that we didn't know were mistakes, but we found a way through it. And if we can create that roadmap to share with other third sector organisations and show them we were able to make that happen with the council, with all the lawyers, with all the people who were required to make this exercise possible, we can make it easier for other organisations like us to perhaps think, do you know what, there's a beautiful old building in our town, perhaps we could regenerate that, be the anchor organisation, and allow in all these other groups that could help our community. So if you're bringing people together for whatever reason, we can then add value by adding our own strengths and talents to what people actually need. And that feeds us too. It's a transaction. If I didn't love this, and if I didn't get a buzz from doing it every single day, why would you? There are far easier ways to earn a living than doing this. You could hang up the tail and say, right, fine, game's a bogey. Absolutely not. You know, there is a reason for all of this, and we have met so many amazing people over the past few years that talk this language. You used to think you were the class clown. Why does nobody get this? You know, why is it only me and Paul and a couple of others that get this? And then all of a sudden you come out and you realise, oh, wait a minute, lots of people think this, but they're maybe scared to say it's okay, or they're maybe scared to try it. But maybe if we say it, maybe if we raise our voices, and maybe if we can just show that it's possible, maybe they'll try too. And I think that's the most important thing for me for the community asset transfer. It shows that it's possible. You acknowledge it's hard, but it's shared strengths and talents. And if we all work through it and we all want it to happen, we will get there. So it's a physical manifestation, I think, of what change could be. And it doesn't need to be the size of it. That, you know, it's nice.
It's nice. A good thing to be able to do. I mean, it's hugely ambitious. And like you say, you know, I can imagine that some people, you maybe got some feedback that it's a huge project, massively ambitious. Are you sure it'll work? That type of thing. COVID's going to have an impact on education systems, on the way that we learn, the way we use buildings. The high streets is going to be completely changed. The way we use the high street, I mean, at the moment, the high street has lots of empty buildings, and we're going to see more online shopping, aren't we? We're going to see different ways so we're going to have these assets that could be used and could
reimagined. Oh, absolutely.
So there's that huge opportunity. We were chatting before about, and I saw some of your tweets on school and actually the education system, and how maybe things could be done differently. We spoke at the beginning, you know, does learning necessarily have to happen all the time within the classroom? Is the building necessarily the only way that takes place? We've been thinking about the way we deliver training, and, you know, it could be event-based at some points, but we're not going to lose this asset of using digital technology. How might we think about our schools first education system, and then you can maybe say a wee bit more about what you think about communities, but the school kind of experience.
I think it's just a huge opportunity to redesign the service for the benefit of teachers and pupils, because at the moment it's not really fitting anybody well. And if the teachers aren't happy and the teachers aren't content, they can't deliver the service well. We've got to put the health of teachers first.
Well, yes.
You know, they're vital. They are the unlockers of the next generation. They're absolutely vital, and they're actually the local parentis. They are the parent when the parent's not there. That is, for me as a teacher, even now, if you're giving somebody else's child, that is a responsibility. And when you have that child, you look after them as you would your own, and thereafter the learning will come. So for me, that putting that at the heart of the new system is really, really important. Nothing will ever replace just a great teacher face to face and doing the thing, because you just can't. And practical subjects like music, and music is a practical subject regardless of MGC. I'm just getting that one in. It really hurts music. It really hurts. But this is a temporary measure and it will turn again. But I think developing that hybrid model is really important. I think the excitement of allowing really great teachers access to so many more children, students, without geographic boundary because of virtual platforms, it unlocks new subjects to kids who can only maybe take 2 subjects fitting a column, because that's all that school can offer. Why can't they be able to choose whatever they want from the world of learning that's out there if we're able to offer it digitally? We need to ask teachers and we need to ask students or people who want to learn, and it doesn't matter what age they are, what it is they want. It goes back to the what matters to you agenda. Let's ask teachers and students what matters to you. How are we going to deliver education? And this now allows us to think what, when, where, how we're going to learn moving forward. And that is such an opportunity. So you just feel you're never going to have a space like this again. But imagine what it could be if we get this right. We've seen amazing examples of particularly teenagers who are completely disengaged with school and do not like it one little bit and do not go. Embracing learning because it's online. So why do they have to go to school if they don't like it but they're learning? Take away the barriers. But we would never have done this because we tinker around the edges and we try. Now there are no edges. Let's start again with this fresh slate and build up with what is good. But bring the teachers on the journey. We have to ask them. We have to make sure they're happy, and then we'll have an education system that is allowing everyone to thrive. You know.
I think that was going to be my next and kind of final probably question. I think we could go on for hours, Fiona. Potentially, we could speak for days. But in terms of like during COVID, thinking about that, so the view is that actually a lot of children who just didn't like going to school, and school being in a contained environment wasn't right for them. I think probably similarly, but conversely, there are some kids probably at home where maybe the home environment isn't fantastic. Maybe there isn't that support. So therefore, if there's a new way to deliver potentially education, maybe there's a new way for, if we use the term third sector, the social sector, whatever else, to support the pastoral needs of young people in a different sort of way. So it's maybe looking at just the whole way that the education system and the whole kind of pastoral care system round about education could be imagined.
I think so. No, there is just such a rich opportunity just now. And again, for us, the village allows us to really think what that could be. What could the space at the village do to complement and support the education system in its transition time, but also in whatever the new world looks like? How can we be part of that allows just that synergy, that ability to co-produce and to support anyone who wants to learn. I think it's that whole piece, because we have the music and the arts, and hopefully we'll have some sports involved there as well. It really doesn't matter what age someone is when they start to access that by accessing those things, people can then start to create their own futures, to write their own stories. And I think too many of the people we have supported and worked with have had their story written for them by other people. That didn't happen to me. I was able to do that. I'm sure you've written your own story, but too many of the most vulnerable folk, they get a story that is written and it's sheaf after sheaf after sheaf of paper. We cannot allow that. And the prison would be the key point for me, when we discovered that the incredible strengths and talents of the men at that point that were being unlocked by art and music and writing. In fact, I don't know if you saw on Twitter today, an example of it went live today in a set of sonnets that were written by women in.
I saw that.
Hidden Voice. It's absolutely phenomenal. They bring it to life. They bring it to life. Or look up a guy called The Picturist on Twitter. John Andrews, the most phenomenal artist. Prison is unlocking talents in people that should have been unlocked at school, but they weren't. They've gone to prison. They have been shown that a light has been shone on them, and that has allowed them to say, I could try this. Someone has reached out and said, I see something in you. Why don't you give it a go? So that, for me, it's never too late. And I just believe, for me, that the arts are going to have such a role to play as people heal, because this has been a trauma. People have been through grief, anger. As you said, this is real life now, and we need to navigate that. And people are grieving because people have died, and people are grieving because they have left things behind that are never going to be the same again. But I believe that the arts have always had that power to heal, but they've got to be inclusive, and they've got to be recognisable to people. It can't be up here all the time. It's got to be grassroots, and then it's about bridging and leading and showing even more. So if you come to Centrestage, we'll do that stuff that you just think, it's just immediate, but it can also take you to the next level, you know, because we're surrounded by amazing other organisations who can take you to that next place. But if you don't ever feel it, if you don't ever get it, if you only get, you know, a wee singing class in primary 3, and that's all you ever get in music, and you don't get to do music, because if you're bad in maths, you don't get to go to the choir. It was never the opposite way. If you were kicking off in music, you didn't get to go to maths. That was never a sanction.
I was never, no, completely.
So if you take away the arts and you take away the sport from, or you don't even allow them to feel it, you know, you've taken away that whole chance, you know, that could have been that wee hook for change, you know, or just a hook for the future. So it really has been quite the time, but you've just got to keep walking, haven't you? You've just got to keep walking.
And have that, I mean, well, this whole kind of 2 weeks about leadership and having vision and positivity and drive through these times. I couldn't think of a better way to wrap it all up than speaking to you today, Fiona. So I really do thank you for your time. Thank you for keeping on going with my internet problems as well. I'm
just glad it was mine that was the change.
Well, I'm glad it was with you, because I think we've powered through. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Kieran.
Lovely.
Keep well.
Thank you. Bye.